What's good, everybody? RgLerma hanging out with you in the sedan this morning with a very, very good friend. And now we didn't clarify earlier because I know branding is important for me. Branding is important for you, Sir William Jackson.
William Jackson is fine.
Or is it William T?
It could be William T. Let's do William T.
There we go. William T. Jackson is hanging out today in the sedan. RgL Sedan Sessions, a conversation series that I have decided to launch. We are now episode 5 into the journey, so thank you very, very much, any and all who have tuned in as we progress episode over episode. And the whole reason is kind of simple for me, is to find out your why, find out everyone else's why, and also to touch on the unique stories on how we got to this crosshairs, because we were just as you hopped in the sedan earlier talking about how the unique ways that we all meet and the overlap that exists, not only in the creative world but in Austin, South Central Texas. We'll get into all of that. But William T. Jackson, how are you, my friend? Thank you very much
very well
for jumping into the sedan.
This is a pleasure to be here, and please allow me to say I am completely in awe of you creating this idea locally. In fact, I'm jealous. And I'm going to use that word affectionately, because this is a brilliant idea.
Thank you.
I think it's a fantastic way, a casual way, a comfortable way to get to know people better, and also to bring ourselves more into our communities.
Absolutely.
And it's that community aspect that just makes us so wonderful here in Austin. So congratulations to you for following through with this wonderful idea.
Thank
and I
very
wish
much.
I had done it.
Thank you very much. Well, what do they say? Imitation is the highest form of flattery. So
Yes.
go, make yours, do yours.
Yes.
And because I will say, the motivator for me, we were just talking about as well, is a fellow broadcaster. I will put myself in that category as well, as sharing news and sharing
Yes.
of people, journeys. But an actual broadcaster out of San Antonio, Ernie Zuniga, who's got a show, Pickup Lines. We have an interesting connection in that we went to the same high school together.
Okay.
And I don't know that he knows or remembers that. He was several years ahead of me, but that and national and international broadcasters, Maria Hinojosa from KUT and NPR fame, Latino USA, folks who are shining a light on those in the community, movers, shakers, unsung heroes. And you've always been a mover and shaker in my book. What have you been up to these years? You did say there's a lot going on, so catch me up. What is going on today in the here and now? What is William T. Jackson up to?
Well, I'm pleased to report that this is one of the first few outings that I have had recently.
Okay.
I've recently dealt with some health issues that have been resolved.
Good.
So I'm in the healing process. So it is an honor to actually be out of the house, and for this to be one of the first forays out of the house while I'm recuperating.
Absolutely.
So things are going well.
Good.
And in terms of other exciting things, I guess I can announce them because they're in the developmental stage.
What do we have?
But I thoroughly enjoy wine.
Okay.
A wine bar, Cork in Georgetown. There are other nice little wine bars across Central Texas. So I've decided, as an homage to my wonderful family, that I am creating a wine label.
Okay.
So we are already in the process. Everything has been identified.
Wow.
The foundation is being laid right now, literally as we speak, and I am excited about that. That is all that I'll share.
Okay.
Because all of the deep dive issues we're finalizing.
We don't have enough NDAs for everybody out there.
You got that right. But I am very excited about that. That is just something I want to do.
Good.
And
Good.
enjoy doing it. So I look forward to that.
And so what is it going to be, you said so it's a wine label? Or
a wine brand.
Got it.
Yes.
Very good. All right. Stay tuned, folks. William T. Jackson in the sedan. We pulled up today to First Watch for some breakfast, brunch-ish, who knows, we'll see, to just kind of kick back and enjoy. And it's something that is also the common thread, episode over episode, friend over friend that I've had in the sedan, this is something we would have done anyway.
Yes.
Peeling back the fourth wall, peeling back the curtain or not, because it's been a while, and I know you reached out a while ago on some other internet and media things, because we will dive into how we got connected.
Yes.
But this is something we would have done anyway. Let's meet for a coffee. Let's meet for a breakfast. And we're not surface level friends. There's nothing simple about any of the connections. And we want to find out, how have you been? What's been going on the journey? And so that's the point too of RgL SEDAN sessions. Hop in. Tell me how it's been for you.
Absolutely.
So if you can remember, and I know we were peeling it back.
Yes.
How and where do you remember our connection?
Okay.
Because it's been a while.
Yes, it has.
It's 2011 or 12, I think.
I'm going to even say prior to that.
You're right.
Because the magazine had not become a reality yet.
Remind folks which zine.
It would have been Influential Magazine at the time, which then morphed into Influential Magazine, Spanish Influential, and Teen Influential. So from the one brand came 3.
Okay.
But those were not birthed yet. So at that time, it was WJackson and Associates.
That's right.
Because what individuals may not know is, besides being an award-winning publisher, I also managed wonderful musicians here in Austin. So that is how we became connected. And
which, sidebar upon sidebar upon sidebar, you are also a musician, songwriter?
I am.
Okay.
In fact, you know what I was doing this morning?
What's that?
Writing songs.
Okay.
Because last night I got hit with the bug probably around 6 p.m. and that's how my songs generally come.
And you've steady been writing songs. I remember that from when I met you. Oh my gosh.
And I never scratch out, meaning the songs just totally flow. I have never had a song lyric where the lyrics were changed, and I keep them in my original handprint. So those are all locked in a vault, but the original song at 13, I remember where it was when I wrote it, where I was reclined in my bedroom, and I was listening to music, and the song just came. Literally, they flow from my head. So that's in my original 13-year-old handwriting.
And you have that still?
Oh, I have every one of my songs. Ooh. And I've written probably 6,000. So a couple today would be 6. This morning I wrote 3. Yesterday 3. And in my head I write to a melody.
Okay.
So I'm just not writing lyrics, I'm writing to a melody.
So you can almost hear, the finished
absolutely
product already.
The full orchestration of it.
How many have you taken to production? I'm sure that's a hard ask. Do you take many to production?
I am published.
Okay.
I'm with BMI, and we happen to have a BMI office on Congress. I never knew that until a couple years ago when I needed to discuss royalties. But there is a BMI office on Congress, and let's see. So I'm published. So they are published out. I make them available.
Okay.
And then in terms of the answer to your question, let's see, I have 1 CD of where I actually participated in the music. I recorded the music on 6th Street. I don't know if it's still there, but it was called Music Lane.
Okay.
And we knocked 11 songs out with me handling some percussion, some keys, and some of the background vocals. And then, so we would record the music here, and I wanted Austin musicians.
Right.
So we solicited Austin musicians. Then I would fly to California, where the vocalist lives. I would take the hard drive with me, and we would do her vocals in California.
Wow. What years was this? I mean, you said you started songwriting at 13, but this particular
2008 and 9.
Okay.
When we did that one, and then the second CD I did not participate in, but the vocalist selected 2 songs for that. In fact, she named her album after one of my songs.
Oh, nice.
So that is a very interesting. And you know what's interesting, Ricardo, is to walk through any place. For example, I was back in Ohio, which is where I'm from. I was with my parents, and I'm one of 6. Okay. So very rarely did I have an opportunity to have my parents to myself. So we were
opposite end of that, I'm an only child. I had them all in my business all the time.
My goodness. Well, we can swap some stories
I was
about
going to
that.
say, you don't know what you don't know, right?
No. So I was in the front seat. Mom was driving because we were dealing with some issues with her health, and Dad was in the back seat.
Okay.
So the song comes on that was very familiar to me. Now, one thing about a songwriter, which many people will probably tell you, you forget them. Because
really, because it's just a flow.
There's just a flow.
Yeah.
It's not something that I work at. It comes naturally.
I've wondered that about a lot of artists, whether it's songwriters, people performing, because you hear of a lot of very, very talented folks who one either don't write a lot down because they do it all from memory, but I'm like, wow, the catalog that you must have to have. Well, you know, like you said, you know where you were at when you penned all of these.
For most of them, I do remember. That one I just didn't, because I guess I was excited about being with my parents. But anyway, this lyric came on, and she was singing it, and I said, I know that, but I've not heard it before. So I thought, and lo and behold, there was a song called Mr. Blues, and I said, that is my song.
Oh.
And Mom started tearing, and Dad is grinning. Now, you'd have to know him. He's a very, very tall man, large teeth, similar to mine. So he's just grinning because they had never, you couldn't fathom. And
this was actually this was your song?
It was mine.
Wow.
It was on the radio.
That's amazing.
And you couldn't fathom that. So they were just grinning. It was beaming with pride. But then I'm coming through Bergstrom, and there was another one. Or on JetBlue, listening to music and your songs are streaming. So it is a very surreal feeling, but Mr. Blues was the very first one. And I happened to be with my parents when that occurred. So
who was the artist?
Her name is Maria Johnston.
Obviously it's published, it's out there. You can find
there.
Yeah,
you can find it. And that CD did very well, particularly overseas. And if you know anything about royalties.
A little bit. So in the early days of my acting side, so I moved to town for acting, and the game has changed a lot. And there's a whole lot of rabbit holes to go into that. But yeah, there was a few. One of my first commercials was a Ford commercial.
Okay.
And it was in the days of royalties, and my gosh.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they
surprises
come
in the mail. Yes.
Yes. They come unexpectedly.
And sometimes, depending on the life of the artist that you're living, it's right on time. It's right on time. There'd be moments where I was like, what is going on? And then it opened up the mail.
And there it is. And no matter how small or how large. And I think I still have the first one. I sat there grinning like a Cheshire cat. But that is a side of me that many people probably don't know.
Wow.
My passion, I would say, because it comes naturally, is writing.
Okay.
And I can play. I've been trained to play 5 instruments, but writing is very natural to me. So the piano, I started playing the piano very young. I probably maybe about 5, and then I went to trumpet.
Okay.
Trombone. My sisters played. I have twin sisters. One played the alto and the other played, they both played
the sax. Yes,
the alto sax. So I used to play around with that and could pick that up very easily because I have piano as a bass, and then the flute. So there are the 5. But what I write to in my head is the piano.
Okay.
And everything is mapped out, and I do have a collaborator that will also chart the music, which I can do, but it would take forever. I don't want to do that. I just want to write.
Absolutely.
And they come, and the music flows, and he needs a partner to write the lyrics. So it's like a marriage of talent,
a creative foil,
and we stay in our lane.
Almost. Absolutely. That dovetails into kind of the era when we connected. So that overlaps. You were then managing artists as well. So again, RgL SEDAN sessions, hanging out, conversations, peeling back the curtain, peeling back that fourth wall, and finding out, hey, we've known each other a lot, but I didn't know this, or I didn't know
Absolutely.
that. But then also so many common threads within whether it's creative or whether it's corporate. And we met in an interesting world where it was kind of a blend of both.
Yes.
A blend of a corporate, creative, and that was such a fun time.
Yes. A very free, carefree time.
Networking in Austin was a different animal. We're talking the mid 2000s, 2000, when I remember it, 2011, 12 or so. But you're saying our first connection probably came a few years earlier. I think it was at the Driscoll. And I think we did settle on that.
We did settle on the Driscoll.
And it was with our mutual friend Sandra.
Absolutely.
Amazing. And I think she may be hopping in the sedan soon.
I hope wonderful.
So. But I do, and it was either an AFS, Austin Film Society, or the Food and Wine. No, it was a film-centered event. Because I remember that about Sandra, and I remember that about you. There was industry talk. There was an industry feel that I got. And if you're like me, and we've established that we're similar in many ways, we don't go to just events to get the hors d'oeuvres, get the drink, and then go. We want to meet. We want to mingle. Why are you here? What's going on? And I think for me, I remember seeing you two and knowing you were both about business.
Absolutely.
But that also you had this air about you, and I wanted to know you. And I have a feeling it was mutual all the way around, and we just sparked a connection.
Absolutely.
And it was that networking sense of, well, what's up? What are you doing?
And really, Ricardo, that is how we should approach networking, being strategic about it. I think everyone involved should walk away with something, and everyone should be contributing something. And I like the fact that you said these things are a dime a dozen. There are so many opportunities, so many galas, which I thoroughly enjoy. There are a few that are a mainstay for me, like the Ice Ball. I think that's so nicely done, and people really attend with a purpose. But there are so many opportunities to meet and greet, and I always like to bring myself to the table. I like to bring William T. Jackson. That is who I am. What you see brand is what you get.
Absolutely, sure.
Absolutely. So you go, and I encourage individuals to go purposefully, to go meaningfully, genuinely, all the Lees. And not only does it enrich our society and our community, but it enriches me as a person, because I find myself to be very patient, very affable. I really do like people.
Oh, right.
And I have no problem. I relish opportunities for public speaking, but I actually become better because of my surroundings. Correct. And I'm intentional about that. And
there's a give and take. There's a place. So my origin of creativity started with theater and acting, and I'm sure other, I was the kid who used the planner as a saxophone. Those old school plastic planners. And I was the one that great grandma would just say, that kid's gonna be something. He's gonna do something. And we're still figuring out what. I think always you should be figuring out what.
Yes.
But early on in those days, people would ask, well, what's your passion? What do you want to do? And people are my passion, because there's so many stories, there's so many journeys. And it was that sparked how I got connected with you. So I was at the time running a networking agency, an actual. So that had branched off from a few people. If were familiar with or are familiar with the corporate networking world, there was BNI, business networking, either international or incorporated. I forget. That was just too rigid. It was too rigid. It was lunches. It was
structured.
Oh, absolutely. And it was well, no, you feed the group first. And my idea was like, well, yes, I love people and all that, but what if you're my go-to person, but I don't see you closing deals, and I don't want, I want to feed who's going to feed me, but that reciprocity sort of sense.
Yes.
So a buddy of mine, Chris Wright, who was very instrumental as well, and then Susan, who was also instrumental in helping to create Austin Elite Networking. Chris Wright said, well, why don't you start your own? I was like, what? And I was young enough at the time and motivated enough, and I don't know, that was a young man's game then. And I said, you know what? Yeah. Let's do it. And Dogwood, downtown Austin, had just opened, literally just opened that year. And I don't know where my business sense and my business savvy come from. Well, yeah, my grandfather, my uncle are business owners. We're business owners growing up, and there were lessons that I can remember to this day that I didn't know were lessons then. You know, you play back certain things that your elders would do.
Yes.
So I went to Dogwood and I asked them, I said, hey, listen, can I bring a few folks, 50 to 100 folks, on an off night, on a Tuesday night? Because I knew enough about the marketing of restaurants and bars and attendance. And yeah, absolutely, sure. Well, I knew I wanted to not just throw any certain type of event. I knew there had to be elements.
A purpose.
Because, like you just mentioned as well, networking then, and even still, you were saying the galas, but even then, networking, oh my gosh, there was events, there were happy hours, there was every day. There was something. And they will all get a little diluted because it was just kind of schmoozing. So we would partner with a nonprofit. I knew I wanted a music element, and that's how
we became connected.
Absolutely. And I think it was having met randomly at the Driscoll. We called another meeting. I think we agreed. We called another meeting at the Driscoll just to kind of hang, me, you, and Sandra. And then that's when I found out you were managing artists.
Yes.
And I didn't know at the time the musicianship, the songwriter in you. Tell me about WTJackson Associates.
WTJackson Associates was actually born out of me having a love for music.
Okay.
And I'll have to tell you about Austin and that piece of how I got here. But it was me going to Sullivan's Elephant Room. Remember the Sullivan days?
Sullivan's Ringside. Ringside.
Yes,
Sullivan's
That's
Ringside.
it. I was going to say the back room, but it was Ringside. And
the burgers were amazing there.
Yes. And that
what a time.
Martini that they infused. What about Reed Supper Club?
Yeah.
Do you remember that in the
I only went a couple times.
But I was a mainstay, and I like all genres of music, so it doesn't matter. But those venues seem to cater more to jazz, like the Elephant Room and Ringside, for obvious reasons. A more comfortable setting, a more adult crowd. Yes.
Right.
And Ringside gave you a little bit of everything. So I was there so much that it was easy to just transition into management.
Really? So you went from just an attendee
to, but then people also saw, I guess, on the social media, which, ladies and gentlemen, which is why a good social media presence is important. They also saw how I carried myself and that I had other skills, such as business, because I do have an MBA, and I got that here in Austin. And I'm actually an accountant. So I got the Bachelor's of Accounting, I have a Bachelor's of Business, and an MBA. So I have 3. So you could see, I guess people could see, this dude not only
serious.
It's serious.
Well, that's a beautiful thing about Austin as well. And obviously I'll let you continue, but that's what I want to touch on is I'm noticing you may see a banker, which folks know I'm in banking as well. But that's not just a banker. You may see an accountant.
Yes.
That's not just an accountant. This is Austin, Texas.
Absolutely.
You got to do it all.
You have to
move your idea, your creativity forward.
Absolutely.
Okay, so by day you were doing accounting, and then going to attending these fancy evenings.
Yes, with the same clothes. Now, and I say that interestingly.
I know.
Because it seems as if I'm always in a blazer. But what many people didn't know, I'm coming directly from my job. So I would just slide from wherever I was at the time to Sullivan's.
Have you always been a man of fashion in that sense? I've always known you as such.
Always. And I don't play.
No.
If I'm showing up, I'm showing out.
That's right.
Not purposefully so. It's just what it is, if that makes sense. It's just what it is. I feel more comfortable.
Used to say that is if folks are going to look at you, give them something to look at.
You got that right.
And I think a lot of that culturally is, for me, it's cultural. In how we came up in Southeast Texas. What brought you to Austin?
Oh, that's an interesting story. It was actually, excuse me, just being bored on my lunch hour. I am an Ohioan.
Okay.
And I started studying school in Ohio. So in fact, that's where I got my Bachelor's of Accounting and Bachelor's of Business from an Ohio college, too. And so I was literally bored on my lunch hour in my office and just checking out the job scene. So what many
life was in Ohio for you.
Life.
And
yes,
is that where family's still?
Yes, I was born and raised.
Okay.
In Ohio. So.
What era? What years is this that you're?
Oh.
That you did that.
Until I was 24.
Okay.
Before that, well, even before that, before we get to how I got to Austin, I went to school in Boston. So I lived in Boston. Absolutely love Boston, Massachusetts. That would be number 2 behind Austin.
Okay.
The only thing that I think separates them is the weather.
Got it.
But I'm accustomed to snow, but I don't have to deal with it now that I've lived here.
Was it the metropolitan? Was it the city? Was it the hustle, the bustle? I haven't been to Boston
What do
yet,
I love about Boston?
Because I've been to DC, I fell in love with DC. I went to Chicago, I fell in love with it. But I grew up in, not rural, Victoria, Texas isn't rural, but it's country. It's small town Texas.
Let me think about it. Why did it's historical.
Okay.
I think I have an old soul. So
absolutely.
it was very
familiar in a way.
Intelligent people. Think about the colleges there.
Got it.
Not saying that education makes one intelligent, but it contributes to it.
Access to information.
Access to new information. The people were very warm. And I was accustomed to the cold, so that didn't affect me. But then the train system, it was refreshing to have a train system. I seldom drove in Massachusetts.
Got it.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. And my lifelong friends, I made lifelong friends there that we are still friends to this day, from Massachusetts. And so then I went back to Ohio, and that's when I was surfing.
Okay.
So during a period in early 2000, Y2K, I interviewed at Microsoft, Duke Energy in North Carolina. Microsoft, of course, is in Redmond, Seattle. I interviewed at Dell Computer in Austin, Texas. And there were several other Fortune 500, Fortune 100 companies. I knew nothing about any of them.
I was gonna say, what were you interviewing for? Or?
They were business and compliance.
Business development, sales type, whatever, or was it the accounting?
Actually accounting.
Okay, got it.
And financial analytical work. So I knew nothing about these cities. I've never heard of Redmond, Seattle. I had never, ever heard of Austin, Texas.
Wow.
I knew absolutely nothing about Austin.
Really?
So I came in August, and the way that they would fly us in to save on interview cost, they would fly you in and schedule your interview on that same day. So the interviews would be in the afternoon. So since I'm coming from the Eastern time zone, I gained an hour.
Okay.
So they encouraged us to come in our business suit. When the plane landed, she opened the door, and that heat. I was wearing contact lenses, and I will never ever forget it. It was August the 15th, and it was 115 degrees. And she opened the door, and I said, "What in the world?" Now, of course, I should have done my research, but I would have never thought to look at weather.
Right.
Like when you go to Seattle, I didn't think. And so I got the rental car, and at that time there was no navigational system, so I followed the map.
Right.
I got to Round Rock, and the lady saw my face. She said, "Sir."
Were you drenched?
Drenched. And it was a bad gray suit that I had had custom made. And she said, "We've got 17 lakes, Mr. Jackson, so don't let this heat." I did not accept that job. And they called me back in...
But you guys, so they offered it though?
Yes.
Dell and Austin offered it?
Dell.
Okay.
And then they called me back in October. Okay. And it had cooled, so I was fooled, and I accepted it. But up until that point, I knew nothing about Austin. I didn't even know, I forgot it was the capital. So I got here.
And that intro didn't turn you off? It didn't deter you?
No, I did it in Massachusetts.
Okay.
I knew nothing. So, and the type of person that I am, which many people will find contradictory, I am very reserved and extremely shy. So doing those things I forced myself to do them because I needed to grow. I needed to change myself because I recognized that I was.
There was nobody going, "Hey, go, William, go. You need to go experience. You need to."
No.
You knew.
My family even said that I shouldn't.
Really?
They said I shouldn't. My parents said, "You won't survive."
Is it the fear of the unknown, sort of?
Well,
you think?
well, they know me, and they knew that I was very shy and very withdrawn, and so how can he make it? So because they said that, I was very determined.
Sure, you know what? I'm going
to do it, and those were the best, some of the best decisions I've ever made. But coming here, December the 9th of 2000, I remember it to the day, everything about it, and the furniture had not arrived. They had picked it up and shipped it out, and I remember that last plane ride. That's when we could, the family could go up to the gate. That, interesting, that'll only last for another 11 months. In Ohio. My father, because they bought me a Persian rug, and we sent the Persian rug on the plane with me. And I could see, because I have a brother who's many years younger than I, and I could see them from the window waving, and I knew at that time it was United Airlines, and I knew at that time that that would be the last time that I would see them for a while, and I had never experienced that before. And so that was very nerve-wracking.
Sounds like that's when it hit.
That's when it hit.
Whoa, this is happening.
This is happening. And so
And how long was it before you got to see them again?
Oh, it would have been a while, but that was okay.
Sure.
And this moving to Massachusetts and then subsequently coming to Austin, some of the best decisions. This city is outstanding. Once I became accustomed to it, I found the people to be too friendly. In Ohio, we do not speak to people generally unless spoken to. So that was a change. And look at this.
Right.
Look at what's happening now. We meet people, we become friends. Friendships are making friends. Is very organic here in Austin. The weather is absolutely beautiful.
You say Austin got you. It kept you. How long have you been here?
Wonderful.
Oh, 2000.
It'll be 24 years on December 9th. But that's how I got here. And then, so I came for corporate. And then I went from Dell to a company called Cypress Semiconductor.
Okay.
They have a wafer manufacturer on 1431. Then from there, I went to help take a company public. And that's when the domain was being built, because we were located in the domain. It wasn't called the domain at the time. I don't recall what the name was, but that was a fresh approach. And then I went to Seton Hospital and several other forays from there. But all the while, I also had these creative sides.
Right.
So the magazines and the management of the musicians, those were in tandem with my professional career. So there's where we have these several names, the William and the T and all that.
And while I was doing that networking, I was working, in retail branch banking for a bank at the time. And what started as a mastermind group, literally just a few people around a table at the tavern, at the Sunroom, at the tavern, probably 2010 or so. And it was the mindset of literally, what do you need help with?
Yes.
What can I help? Who can I connect you to? We would go around the table, and if you know about master, that's what you do. Hey, what are you working on?
Yes.
What can you help? And folks would comment as because of where we were at in the sunroom of the tavern. It's like, this feels like a entrepreneur, like mafia meeting or something. It had that sort of really cool feeling.
Yes.
But that grew into, because folks enjoyed that style of connecting, which I learned from family. I learned from my grandfather. It was one of those things, and I think also culturally, if I'm going to do business with you, I got to like you.
Yes, absolutely.
Because there's going to be a lot of negotiation. There's going to be a lot of talk. We're going to be around each other a lot. So in any capacity, we got to like each other. And then I got to figure out if we're going to be compatible in that sense.
May I add?
Please.
Do you believe that we also have to trust one another?
Oh, absolutely.
There must be a level of trust involved in that, and there must be another important element for me is I must believe that you believe in yourself and in your product.
Competency, the brand.
Yes.
I was just going to say, moving forward, the brand, not necessarily whether it's yours, mine, but moving forward, the brand. So Austin Elite Networking grew into a happy hour styled networking event at a bar in downtown Austin.
Yes.
With a live music element. And
Yes.
that's where Sandra said, you need to get WTJackson Associates. He's managing artist, and you had an amazing artist at the time, Courtney.
Yes.
Who you brought in, and my gosh, we built in a video element.
Yes.
We had a nonprofit element. We had corporate, creative. That was a fun time. I thank you so much for helping me launch that era of Austin Elite Networking, because it was the signature first event for our new era of networking, and I think you helped us set it off.
I'm so pleased to be part of that bar setting activity, and thank you for also taking advantage of some of our artistry. Our WJackson Associates grew so fast, and we were all around town, from the French restaurant. I can't think of what it's called.
Oh gosh,
now,
that's right.
On 6th.
I remember. Yes, the patio. There were regular happy hours in the patio.
Yes.
There. Not Cenote. No, that's recent. I do remember.
I mean, we were everywhere. Private events, galas, and that to me was so much fun. The art of negotiation, the art of building a product that others believed in, and that's something that I want people to take away from our conversation. Just the tips on, you can be new at your product. You can not be confident because you're new, but I love the fact that people take the step and do it. But along the way, you must do it in such a way that people can see that you have all of your ducks in a row, that this is meaningful, that there's been thought involved, that there's a plan, there's a structure, all these little things that we just don't appear.
Right.
A Red Lobster just doesn't appear. I mean, we're looking at Red Lobster, which is why I'm mentioning it. It just doesn't appear in La Frontera. There was a planning. There was the plan, the build out, the hiring, the training. The same thing that goes into building our personal brands and our personal businesses. And the biggest thing, the most important thing, I think, is the developmental stage, where we decide where we're going and who we're going to align ourselves with to help us get there. And that is one of the beauties of Austin. There are so many people that are willing to share their ideas. There's not
you don't find that in a lot of places.
There's not a holding of
those gatekeepers,
of the knowledge. Yeah, there's, and I love that.
And there's a tide that's turning as well in creativity, and that's again one of the motivators here for getting this session and this series off the ground. RgL SEDAN sessions is basically get out of my way.
Yes.
Get out of your own way, because I am the type. And I'm sure you can relate. Like if I were to ever have gotten, and I've gotten a few failed gym memberships in the past, or you get the new bicycle, or you get the new thing, but then you buy all of the new accessories. I'm that bougie that way as well. But then you're just never gonna have it all. If I wait for the best computer or the best audio or the best whatever equipment, there's always gonna be something. Technology moves so fast. So that's where I do thank folks like the Ernie Zunigas that I found online, the other influencers in the world that are doing similar, who are sharing those concepts of here's the mic I use, here's the audio, it's a phone. The technology is at our fingertips. I can already tell that it's the theme over theme is we're going to need part 2s, 3s,
4, 5, and 6
to discuss all of the things, and that's what I love. Again, there's a beauty in being able to connect and just dive right back in to where we started, whenever that was, the last time we connected. Because there's always something around the corner. There's a few different tidbits I remember from the days of the Austin Elite Networking. Never an arrival is one of the ways that I like to live my life, because the second you feel like you've arrived, someone or something is going to remind you that you haven't. Not in any other way that, hey, there's always a learning. There's always a learning that should be occurring. But in that sense, and again, theme over theme, episode over episode, is the game whether it's entertainment, whether it's corporate, whether it's life, the world, that's not going to change.
No.
The elements do a little bit, and so that's one thing in the networking world we used to say, apply, apply, apply. Meaning, what did you learn in your corporate world as an accountant? Me as a banker. What did you learn as a songwriter? Me as an actor. What did you learn negotiating contracts in a networking world? All of those elements have, again, the pre-production, the production, the post-production. Anything like this podcast even. There's been a few things that I've enjoyed finding out about folks as they hop in the sedan. Again, RgL Sedan Sessions, number 5, I believe. Number 5. Thanks for taking the journey with me.
And number 5 is a good number.
That's right. We're gonna
I'm
launch.
here.
That's right. Absolutely. But if there's, and you've touched on a few things that maybe people don't know or have realized. Excited. I didn't know your songwriting journey started that young, and I can just see the vault of catalogs of journals that you might have.
It's a shame I didn't bring any with me.
Oh my gosh, they would stack up and
they would
back.
stack up. But literally this morning, I mean, really, I was writing around. It was around 9 o'clock.
Good.
And I finished and went and shaved and took a shower and then. But yeah, they come that easily.
Isn't that a good feeling too? And I journal, and I haven't in a while, but to be able to pen it and
put it to bed.
Absolutely.
It's done. I don't have to go back and scratch.
What are, peeling the curtain back more so on yourself, what is something that when people meet you, they're surprised by, or that you wish, man, I wish folks would get to know more about, or you know, some misconception? What is something that surprises folks about William T. Jackson?
Probably how humble I am.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is...
That's an interesting way to phrase it.
Yes, because when you look at the exterior,
I
probably look unapproachable. And then when you hear
you're tall. He's tall, folks.
I'm ominous. And then I speak a certain way, so I've been told. I don't hear it, but I'm told that I...
You are you. That's exactly.
And it can be intimidating, but that is the least of who I am.
Isn't it amazing when you can tell that moment turns? Because it happens to me. I'm a big guy. I know how I present as well. Same thing. I've been told I speak a certain way. I've even had family members sitting across the table go, oh, where'd you learn to talk like that way? I was like, well, hey, this is just me.
Yes.
But then the moment
biggest...
when you disarm folks.
Yes.
And
they have to realize it for themselves. I can't make
them. Right.
Because this is who I am.
But we're observant as heck. And so I love seeing that, like, oh, it's an interesting, and for both.
Absolutely.
Because again, in this part of the country and in this part of Texas, again, rabbit hole, and that's another podcast we won't get into, but we're aware.
I'm aware. I am. I really am. I can't act dumb and act like I don't realize it, but it's not anything that I can control. And that's a big takeaway. If we just
that's humbling
be ourselves. And so I really
be genuine.
Be genuine. And I'm very humble. Let's see, what else would people find? Like I mentioned before, I am extremely shy. And
I think that would be a big surprise.
No one believes that. I say it very often.
No.
And what I mean by shy
I don't even believe it right now, folks.
I know you don't.
No.
But what you see, though, is probably someone working on it. But growing up, I really didn't speak until I was around 21.
Because you're one of 8, you said?
One of 6.
6, okay.
And I am probably the most reserved. Our dad is quiet, but I think I just inherited. And my grandfather, my mother's father, extremely, we called him Papa. And Papa said, if he said 100 words while I was growing up, that would be too many.
Oh my gosh.
Papa never spoke. And so I think I inherited that, but mine was morbidly shy. It just wasn't, you know, some people say, oh, my baby is shy. She's shy when she gets up, or he doesn't want to really. I was afraid.
Wow.
I was afraid to speak. I was afraid of attention. If I were late for school, I would sit out in the hall and cry because I couldn't face the people as I walked in.
Right.
So that, but I could public speak. And because of that shyness, I just read books. So I would read the dictionary and things of that nature, hence my vocabulary.
Absolutely.
So then, So probably now that I think about it, the songwriting was probably an outlet to express myself.
Right.
So now that I literally, this is an epiphany that could have been, because I could not verbally
That's your
do
catharsis, that you're wringing it out.
Yes.
Absolutely. Right.
And my parents would say, my mother said once, she says, I just don't know what to do. She said, because you're so different than your brothers and sisters, the fact that you didn't say anything, because we were born very close, particularly four of us. And she said, if one child was quiet, that was less stress on her. So the others were very vocal. I have sisters who are very vocal, and I remember them as being such, and they are now. Then there was me, number two, and then there's a brother below me, but 2 years younger, but I was just morbidly.
Oh, wow.
It was a morbid. It was so.
Yeah, all of this in an effort to find your voice, your way.
Well, could have been the songwriting.
Yeah.
So now, where did this big mouth come from? I have a cousin who really encouraged me to speak up. He would say, like if he asked, where do you want to eat lunch? I would say, wherever you want to go. No, he said, make a decision.
Tell me what you want. Yeah,
what do you want? And see, I never had that ability to speak up in my immediate family because there were too many of us, and then I was very quiet, so no one paid attention.
Well, and it happens on the other end of the spectrum as well. I was just thinking about that for myself the other day. Only child, it was one of those, no, the adults are talking. You go, just go deal with.
Yes.
So since there were no, so interesting, you get lost in your counterparts. There were no counterparts for me, but so hence a form of not ignoring, because there was no neglect. And we all have our traumas, however it comes. But back to the couple of, again, curtain peelers.
Yes.
If not Austin, Texas now, if not having done WTJackson Associates, if not the accounting, what? Where?
Oh, that's an interesting question, because just a couple days ago, here's another...
Were you bored on the computer, or are you going somewhere else?
No. Here's something that's very interesting that I am actually studying. So here is another announcement. I'm actually studying real estate.
Okay, good.
And I had a wonderful conversation with a local agency and the person responsible for training and finding new talent.
Good.
And she asked the question, a year from now, if we were to meet in this conference room, what, where, who, what, where, why would you be? And so I explained, I said, you know what, because I am such a go-getter, I will be the rookie of the year. I will already have my pipeline built strongly, my business acumen off the charts, and she just sat there in awe. But that's how I go at things. I don't go halfway.
If you're going to do it, do it.
And I think that, again, that goes back to that shyness. Because if I'm going to do it, it's going to be on point. There are seldom chances where I'm half-stepping. So it's from the real estate to the wine to the education to the photography. Oh, that's probably something that you didn't know.
I did not know that.
I think you and I both. I studied photography at UT.
Really?
Yes, that was
folks, we're going to need episode 2, 3, 4. Wow.
I never really share that because no one ever really asks. But I was trained I started taking photography with my bachelor's degree. And I actually learned darkroom processing in Ohio with my beautiful Nikon N70, which that camera is the jam. That I held that camera this morning as I was getting dressed. I also have a Sony, which not my favorite. It's not intuitive, but the Nikon. I trained on the Nikon. Then I got an N90 for my studies at UT.
Oh my gosh!
And we would do architectural photography. We would do fashion photography. But that's another love of mine. I used to carry, if I would show you pictures from probably 10 years ago, that bag.
Okay.
I think I was with you. There is one it was a green bag.
You always had the camera.
In the bag was that camera. That camera was with me.
Yeah.
As if it was part of my teeth.
Because I had just gotten my Olympus Evolt 500, and same. It was always
went
there.
with me everywhere. That's what that.
Well, and it turned into work sometimes too, because you just wanted to shoot.
Yes.
Yeah. No, folks, definitely gonna need more. But no, so what? If we can put a period on it, if not Austin, what or where? So, well, it sounds like you're sold on it. You're going to be.
I'm not leaving Austin.
Rookie of the Year.
Yes, I love Austin.
Real estate, and then sommelier, among other.
Well, you'll see the wines on the shelf.
Oh my God!
And these will be at eye level.
Okay.
And when you understand branding,
I do.
You know what's on the bottom shelf.
Right.
And you don't put William Jackson's wines on the bottom shelf. Now, if they go there, you know what? I won't complain.
Right.
But the goal is to have them at eye level. And
that reminds me of when I did go to DC. We toured the Frederick Douglass house, and I learned about his luggage.
Yeah. Okay.
And how he always kept a rounded top luggage, because in the day you would have to stack luggage.
Yes.
And it's same. You don't put his luggage on the bottom. You don't stack anything. He's always one on the top.
Jackson's product.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Now that's the takeaway.
You don't put William Jackson
on the bottom.
On the bottom of anything, folks. He's gonna be on the top.
No, I'm at the eye level.
RgL Sedan Sessions here. Thank you, William T. Jackson.
It has been a pleasure
for hopping in. We're gonna go and find some first watch. I don't know, maybe some hurricane wings. I don't know. We'll see, depending on the time of the day. But thank you again for meeting me. I know it was a little bit of a drive for you as well. Again, RgL Sedan Sessions, a conversation series where we peel back the why and figure out how the journey's been, what have we been up to, and what's around the corner. And it sounds like there's quite a bit around the corner, so stay tuned, folks. RgL Sedan Sessions.
A pleasure. Absolutely a pleasure.